Cool. From what we discussed on Tuesday, so we had discussed on Tuesday, from what I remember, right? We were talking about, potentially speaking about this continuation, which I believe was on a higher time frame, which was the overall move here. Yeah, it was right here. Don't recall if it was a daily. Yeah, daily POI, and we were mentioning how this could potentially be a bounce based on the entire range still technically being bullish, and we had the continuation BOS, but our major intraday is bearish because the swing structure had been broken. However, we have two reference points, and we can see that based on the initial reference point, 1 second, that was back to 30 minutes. The initial reference point, right, we were looking to see whether or not we would get a bounce of, this said POI, I believe that was an H1. Yeah, H1 at inefficiency. And as you can see, the continuation BOS had been occurred, but that is confirmed as a liquidity grab based on this and this. So because the order flow is not supporting this at the moment, there really is no reason for this to continue lower, at least for the short term. That means that the pullback has essentially started. And because that then led to, right, a second continuation BOS, excuse me, that then, right, is still inclining us to still be bullish. I don't recall where this PO, yeah, it was just a H3 POI, H3 efficiency. And as you can see, the order flow is technically still bullish. So I see this continuing upwards, at least for the next, I would say, I guess till midweek at least. The next area of interest that I want to see now, because we broke through the continuation here, is anywhere around here. I believe H4 might look a little bit better. Yeah, H4 does look a little bit better. You can see inefficiency and a candle of interest. That candle of interest is supported by order flow. As you can see, the mitigation there before the move down. I think this is going to be, a very important spot come next week. I do think that we are still going to be bullish here just because of the confirmation of the POI that we talked about on Tuesday and the break of the POI that we also mentioned on Tuesday. So due to this break, continuation BOS, nothing really supporting this to continue lower. And as we can see, this is starting to build up a little bit of, a slow and steady bullish push. So AU, I don't know if you guys remember, but AU and EU was the one that I said that I wasn't convinced that this could be bearish, even for the short term, which is why I mentioned that we would only be bullish if we reached, right, any sort of reference point, aka being structure. So anywhere here, basically. We were mentioning that we wouldn't necessarily be inclined to sell just because the setup did not look clean enough. Whereas with AU, it did look a bit more clean, only if we were to break internal structure. And that's exactly what we did. Like we said here, right, we had seen this potentially be a short-term high. That high was never broken. So we said that the only way we would be bearish is if we broke, right, the intermediate low here. So technically, that is what happened here. And I'm actually going to take this off. As you can see, that's exactly what happened here. Continuation BOS solidifies the high for the short medium term, right? And then that's when we would see, right, a potential retracement to continue lower. And that's exactly what happened. I believe this was an H1, H2. Yeah, H2. Not the prettiest candle ever, but the open of potential SC. I don't consider that an SC though. Yeah, nothing really. Yeah, I would consider this more the inefficiency and then potentially a wick SC in here. That would be the only reason that I would gather that or caught that scenario there. But as you can see, right, the bias that we had, talked about, if this then that, if the continuation BOS to the downside occurred, then we can anticipate, right, a continuation to the downside. And it looks like this is going to continue a bit lower, and that supports obviously this coming a bit higher. As for with EU, this one, it just does not look pretty at all. If you see where we're bouncing from, right? We have bullish order flow in play, but then we didn't break a high. And then after we didn't break a high, we didn't break a low. So this is technically no man's land. So nothing really here that's interesting in my opinion. This one I'm gonna just wait and see what can happen. But it looks like this is also gonna probably lean towards the bearish side, just because from an internal structure point, we have seen the bounce, the order flow bounce, low, high retracement, unwillingness, internal break of structure here. Order flow is being supported here. So I am, more so leaning to the bearish side, but this isn't necessarily something I would like to trade, just because even if we're bearish within no man's land, that does not necessarily mean that I want to catch that trade, as it's, in my opinion, a bit less probable. Gold, this one, same thing, nothing new from Tuesday. We knew that we were potentially seeing this not go any higher than it already had. And although we did kind of want to push a little bit more, as you can see, we never broke the high from Tuesday that we talked about, and this is beginning the retracement. So this is just going to be more so a little bit of a short medium term downside, and then seeing what can happen from there. Last one, this one with US 30, our bias, was that after the continuation BOS, aka liquidity grab, was confirmed, we would anticipate the immediate continuation, and that's exactly what we got. Not necessarily the prettiest price action, not necessarily the prettiest order flow, but the bias is intact, and you guys can see why that bias was, or why I formulated that bias, and then after the target was met, obviously we don't know what can happen afterwards. So high momentum, low momentum, break of structure. So in my opinion, now that has happened, let's actually zoom in to M15. I would have wanted to say that this is bullish. I really do want to say that, but I don't see this being too convincing towards the upside. And the only reason why I'm saying that is it's just with this 30-minute candle that we're about to close in 4 minutes, that is extremely bearish. Because the order flow wasn't perfect here, you could say that arguably there's liquidity sitting there, and that's why after we take liquidity point here, that is now fuel, to give us a bit higher movement. So we take out the low, we then take out the internal high here, and once we see that high momentum, this is where you could be inclined towards that bullish bias, just because of how quick that move is from a momentum standpoint. So because of the low momentum here, we know that we're targeting this, but now that we're seeing, and so I'm gonna zoom in for this as well. Oops. Because we're seeing preliminary structures is where the character changed, preliminary structure being broken with high momentum. It really looks like this wants to continue a bit lower, and to argue that as well, it does look like there is a POI here that's being referenced. Yeah, you can see it there, the wick SC. There is a POI being mentioned here, the continuation BOS there. So if we do close this M30 as it is, and we don't start retracing too fast, then I would, see this potentially continuing a bit lower. And I guess that would also support, this going higher for the short term, just because it is technically inverse, but it's not 100% inverse. But yeah, as far as that, DXY, just a small summary. We are technically bullish on this for the short term, just because of how price action is going and because of the reasons that we have already talked about. AU still anticipating a bit more of a short-term move until at least here, in my opinion. If we see a bounce here, obviously we can't necessarily predict that. But if there is a bounce there, then obviously the entire bias changes. EU, we're anticipating this to come down a bit lower. Gold, same thing, but we're still bullish in the medium to long term. And US 30, like we said, at least I would still anticipate a short-term bearish move. So yeah, with that being said, does anybody have any questions? Do you use any notable differences in tendencies on US? No, I hardly trade US 30. I just wanted to add it here just to give you guys more, make these zooms just a bit longer, Honestly, I hardly ever trade US 30. I'm more so just wanting to see if it's actually going to drop. and see how I can correlate that, you know, outside of trading. Because as we said, you know, I would still love to see this, you know, die. You know what I mean? I would love to see it die, but it doesn't really look like it wants to do that, especially after we failed the continuations here. So we need a pretty big bearish transition here to really, you know, want or to really anticipate any type of big drop. We need at least bare minimum this to break in order to assume that, you know, we're going to be bearish at least for the short medium term. And why that low? Let me show you. Because as you can see here, this continuation BOS solidifies the low. So low, high, oh, I'm sorry, not that high. High, retracement, because the reaction is confirmed. So if this breaks, then we could see a variant of structural disruption, and then that could be a big move to the downside. So that's kind of what I would love to see, but I don't necessarily trade this per se. But yeah, I don't really trade it per se, like I said. And either way, you know, I don't give you tendencies. You know better than to ask that. But yeah, how's everybody doing? Does anybody have anything they want to show? I do have some time today. I don't really have much to do right now. Not just yet, man. I'm not that old. Anything? We got a solid amount of people on today, so I'll give you guys a couple of minutes, see if you guys want to show anything. I do have some journals I gotta do. I'll take care of them probably after this call. And we got Lewis on here. I'm surprised he doesn't show the same energy he shows in the group chat in the Zoom, so a bit disappointed. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. But no, yeah, I still read the chat every day, guys. Just because I'm not responding to it, I definitely read up on everything every single day. Yeah, man, all good. Take your time. Well, let me see. Oh yeah, you're trying to share screen? Go for it. My bad. There you go.
Oh, shit. Let me leave on my phone. Okay, so let's see. This is my entry. Pretty much I want to talk about. Semi-aggressive, pretty aggressive. But the reason I took it, once I saw that momentum was kind of slowing down after taking this liquidity from this leg here. Yeah, once I saw liquidity, once I saw liquidity being taken here and momentum kind of slowing down, I zoomed in that morning. Zoomed in this morning. I had these highs marked, these points marked out. Woke up around here, started looking around here, and I saw that we had. I didn't leave the 5 minute for this trade, just for everybody to hear, because I know how people like to go to the 30-second all the time. You don't always have to go to the 30-second to get a decent trade. God, man. There we go. Yeah. So I saw we had confirmed reaction here. And then I literally just took it here from this box. I didn't even leave. Didn't even leave 5 minute. Pretty big SL for me personally, but took it down here. Solid 1 to 10 for the week. It's been my only notable trade this week, but I mean, you know, if you catching a 1 to 10, I'm still kind of holding on to some small partials. I mean, you really don't need much, you know, especially if you're risking a certain amount. It doesn't take much. You don't really need to overtrade. I was looking for something around here. It's kind of what I was saying in the group message. I saw that we had basically gave these reactions here. And I know you said this is no man land. I definitely agree. But I basically saw that we had attempted to come up not only once, but twice, failed. So I was looking here. I believe it was a 1 hour wick. Yeah, 1 hour wick here. I was pretty much expecting it to come down, take this low and come back up, but I kind of wanted a better entry here. I did see an opportunity kind of before it took this low. I just wasn't really paying attention because, again, I was waiting for it to take this low. But again, you have another failed conversion opportunity here. Yeah, have another failed conversion opportunity here, which is, again, don't even have to really leave the 5 minute if you don't want to. Decent RR. But unfortunately, I missed this one because, again, I was waiting for it to kind of take that. But after it happened, I was like, dang, I could have definitely took that. But the only reason I say this isn't really that aggressive because it didn't break this is because you already have the attempt to convert here. And this reaction is stemming from this failed reaction. So this was key as to why I feel like this wasn't that aggressive. But I mean, it's definitely subjective. But yeah, that's pretty much my week there. I had one small buy. Where was it? can't remember where it was, but it wasn't anything special. It was like a 1 to 4, 1 to 5. But that's pretty much what my week's been looking like.
Yeah, zoom in on there. I want to add on to what you said.
Oh shit, sorry. Hold on.
Okay.
Going back.
But yeah, I do agree. It wasn't aggressive in terms of bias. It wasn't aggressive in terms of execution either. You like zoom in on your entry.
Which one? The one I took.
The second one.
This one.
Mm-hmm. That one that you showed. Yeah, that one isn't aggressive because one, you didn't necessarily have to wait here. That is very conservative, I will say that, which is good, not necessarily a bad thing, but you already had, right, an unsubstantial new high based on a POI you already referenced. So all you had now was an internal LG, meaning your invalidation is up here. So that justifies this scenario as a whole. And I mean, it also ties on to what I said about this still giving us a bit more of a bearish push. And then for your first one, I think it's also important to note that your failed reaction does, this is classified as a type of structural disruption.
Okay.
Yeah, just for reference, but yeah, either way, very, very good. Thank you so much for that.
No worries.
Cool. Anybody else want to show anything? Yup. We have. Is there 31 days in this month? Let me check. No, there's 30. So we have 12, 43 days until the Discord is closed forever from everybody. Well, not for you guys, right? But nobody else will be accepted in 43 days. So kind of excited for that, seeing what we can do with this down the line for sure. And I don't have to worry about, anything social media related with this group. Yep, World Cup month too. That's very true. It starts this Sunday. Yep, who knows? I might even hire you guys if you guys have some skills outside of trading. Cool, but anybody else have anything to show? If not, we could go ahead and wrap this up pretty soon. Is everybody good? Any questions? Awesome. Cool, I know we still got some new people as well. That's fine. I will be answering journals right after this call. So if you guys have any journals, feel free to send them right now and I will get them done right within like 30 minutes. But yeah, outside of that, definitely, I'll see you guys on Tuesday.